We just look at it as creatives and say, look at all of these things we could play with.
When you're working on movies as crazy as Venom and its recent sequel, of course you're dealing with a whole lot of CGI. But did you know there are tricks to making it look so sexy and smooth? Let's take a look behind the VFX curtain at There Be Carnage.
Why do I even talk to you guys? Everywhere else that story kills.
That's the whole story?
Yes.
Now that Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and the symbiote are more in sync and working as Venom, this film freed up Tom Hardy to really go nuts. New director Andy Serkis wanted to give the actor the freedom to move around without having to worry about putting a man in a suit, be it mocap or monster on screen. Since Venom is coming out of Hardy, it made more sense to have him skip the mocap and layer the monstrous side of Venom right over the actor. According to Serkis, I've spent a considerable amount of my life playing a character with two sides to his personality. I knew that this film would be about how to free up Tom to imagine Venom's presence. We knew it would not be helpful for him to act opposite a man in a suit, because Venom is a symbiote coming out of him. We wanted to give Tom the freedom in his process to give the performance he wanted. Hardy has also weighed in on this decision, saying in an interview for Total Film that the decision to not worry about mocap was an easy one. Given the difference in height between himself and Venom, as well as the extreme flexibility of the creature's face and limbs, saying, so the mocap treatment went out the window pretty quickly. Facially, your eyes and teeth and tongue are not going to match with this. And you need a 7-foot-tall basketball player in a lycra suit for the physical shots.
How do we, move this around? Not just necessarily with animation or CGI or motion capture, but as an actor.
You've got to be willing to look a little nuts when you're pretending to be a 7-foot-tall monster who eats people's heads. Since the production chose to have Hardy physically on set and doing stunt work for many of the film's action sequences, the actor had to dig deep into his history of playing toughs and heavies, as well as his more reactive, animalistic performances like Max Rokitansky in Mad Max Fury Road and James Keziah Delaney in Taboo.
Just in case, it's successful, which you hope it is, and you put everything into it.
One of the biggest changes going into Venom 2 was the decision to replace departing director Ruben Fleischer with Andy Serkis, having made a name for himself working with Weta to bring characters like Gollum, King Kong, and the Planet of the Apes' Caesar to life. The guy is still the undisputed king of detailed motion capture performances. Even though the film shies away from motion capture, he was still an excellent voice to have on set, as he could help to block out scenes and accommodate for the height differences between his actors and the creatures they were portraying. In fact, Serkis received a call to consult on the film, though he didn't know it at the time. Tom Hardy gave Serkis a call and said, "Andy, I'm going to be doing this character, and it's going to be a digital character, and I wondered if I could come down to the Imaginarium," which is a performance capture studio in the UK. But then Serkis didn't hear from him again for a while, and it wasn't until Venom came out that he realized Hardy was talking about Venom.
He really had to act in this movie. He really is a big character.
One of the wildest things about watching the new Venom is checking out Woody Harrelson as Cletus Kasady. As Kasady, Harrelson is taking huge, wild swings to portray the serial killer, imbuing him with a larger-than-life personality as he tears his way through San Francisco, surfs on cars, and generally looks like he's having a blast the whole time.
Just didn't feel like I was free enough to be more creative.
Here's an incredible bit of stunt work for you. That motorcycle stunt where Eddie goes flying during a massive jump, well, it turns out that it was really mostly him. The production set up the jump, and then put both the bike and Hardy on wires, moving them together and apart on a green screen, and then adding the CGI tendrils later.
Windows get smashed and motorbikes and all kinds of things that happen.
One of the things that the sequel really amps up from the first film is the incredible, dysfunctional domestic relationship between Eddie and the symbiote, treating them more like an old married couple than a crime-fighting duo. This is on full, glorious display during the scenes set in Eddie's apartment, where the effects team connected props, furniture, and sometimes whole actors to cables, so that the objects were moving through a physical space and could be embellished with Venom's many CGI tendrils later on. And yes, that includes Sonny and Cher. Eddie and Venom's pet chickens, who were played by live animals.
There's an enormous amount of humour to be had out of this entire scene.
Here's something that's sure to give you flashbacks to playing racing games when you were little. Apparently, Tom Hardy has a habit on set of making his own sound effects when he was getting hit or throwing punches, and even as he was getting his nose broken by the symbiote, something that puts him in the grand tradition of actors who can't stop making sounds on set, like Harrison Ford in the original Star Wars.
I take orders from just one person, me.
Sometimes there's not a whole lot to do but fake an entire scene, such as this one where Kasady transforms fully into Carnage. Background locations, props, the monster, even Kasady himself were all rendered digitally, giving us a cool and gnarly look at the musculature of a symbiote suit when it puts itself together. Sometimes fate and timing are against you, and you have to make certain concessions to the movie gods. For example, this scene with Kasady in the car was originally supposed to be filmed as a larger stunt on location. Except, well, a little movie called The Matrix Resurrections was shooting in town at the same time, and they got the location first. Instead, the scene with the suspended car was rigged against blue screens and large projection screens to recreate the city skyline.
You know, that's cool because I sure enjoyed playing them, and I'm glad I got to do this.
There seems to be one little trick to shooting an animation scene in a Venom movie. All you do is attach a string or a suspension harness to literally everything in the shot, and then you pull and wiggle everything around, like these poor stunt guys in the scene where Carnage and Kasady escape from prison.
As I walked around, I felt like the king.
Of course, it wouldn't be a movie released in 2021 if we didn't talk about a little bit of pandemic delay. Shooting on the film finished early on, but due to release delays, Andy Serkis and his team were blessed with a ton of extra time to tweak the edit of the film and more closely oversee the CGI work. It takes a lot to create truly convincing CGI. Back in the days of black and white films, production designers had to work carefully to pick outlandish colors that would still pop together and be distinguishable when reduced to a grayscale. But Venom 2 is a testament to the fact you still need to be careful. To create the illusion of this symbiote goo actually coming out of the actors and seeping through their clothes, picking placement and really reactive colors was a must. Finally, here's a little bit of revenge for you. There are several large night scenes in Venom 2 where there are a bunch of helicopters flying around in the background. They don't really impact anything, but they add a certain scope to the scene. So you might be forgiven for thinking that they're CGI. Not true though. They're actually helicopters that were flying around a nearby location for the shoot of, you guessed it, The Matrix Resurrections. Sweet, free helicopters.
A film of this scale, this piece of grand entertainment, blockbuster material with a predominantly black cast, I mean, it just hasn't been done before.
Say what you want about Tom Hardy, it takes a lot of talent to be able to play off an invisible alien that lives inside of you. You really have to be willing to get weird to create good art sometimes. What CGI-less moment surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.